everybody. We're here for another episode of the Fine Savage podcast. You know what's your favorite podcast. I'd like you first, before we start with the ads today, I want you to go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a review, you motherfuckers. We need more of those. Everyone keeps telling me, oh, I love the show. Then go over to iTunes and do me this little favor. I'm not charging you anything for this motherfucker. I'm working hard. Go over there, leave a fucking review. God damn it. Anyhow, I digress. Let's get on with this. Viking Coffee Company. Evan Armstrong's Viking Coffee, the best coffee on the planet. Give them a holler at vikingcoffeeco.com. I want you to try the Old Man Strength Brew. It is the best, but he also has about 50 different other flavors. Try them all. Buy all his coffee along with his hats and mugs. The guy is working hard for you, and he is a mad genius when it comes to coffee production. Use the code VikingCoffee10 at checkout for 10% off. Warrior CBD is the best CBD oil on the planet. It is crazy that I have all these awesome sponsors, and Warrior CBD is one of my favorites. I use it every single night. A couple drops under my tongue. Feels great. No anxiety. Fall right asleep. Wake up refreshed. Great stuff. Muscle rub. Comes in like a roll-on. You roll it on and rub it in your muscles. Awesome stuff. Check them out. WarriorCBDofficial.com. Use the code WARRIOR20 off at checkout. Cerberus is the leader in gear for strength athletes. You see them all over the place. You go to like the Arnold and go to the strongman competition. People are wearing Cerberus gear all over the place. He's got sponsored athletes, some of the strongest people on the planet. Cerberus-strength.us. Use the code REFINEDSAVAGE10 at checkout for 10% off. If you need smelling salts, if you need belts, if you need knee sleeves, if you need wrist straps, whatever you need, they've got it. Give them a holler. Stay Classy Meats is the way to go, especially for you carnivores out there. Look, veganism is some kind of weird cult, and those people probably should be rounded up and put in their own country somewhere. Odd people, very strange people. They're fooling themselves. The only way to go is meat. And if you aren't hunting your own meat, you should definitely be getting it from Stay Classy. Stay Classy, small batch farms out of Bozeman, Montana, raising these animals humanely. They are processed humanely, no hormones, grass-fed, drinking from Montana streams. It makes a huge difference in the way these animals taste once you cut them up. I am a big fan. I only eat things with faces. Stay Classy Meat has the best things with faces. Check them out at StayClassyMeats.com. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout for 10% off. Now, let's talk about Serious Steel. Serious Steel is a fantastic company filled with wonderful human beings. Chad Clark got me involved with these guys, and I couldn't be happier with them. SeriousSteel.com. Give them a holler. If you're like looking to outfit some kind of gym, whether it's your home gym, your commercial gym, a box, whatever, high school gym, they've got everything you need. Plates and bars and dumbbells and kettlebells and wraps and straps and sleeves and everything you possibly need. Anything you could get at one of these other giant international companies, you can get at Serious Steel. So give them a holler. Take care of the people that take care of us. SeriousSteel.com. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout for 10% off. Justin Rohde wants you to know about his Jolly Big Throws Clinic on December 21st. He's going to have some of the best throws coaches in the country at Youngstown State University. He is going to be teaching along with, I can't say the names because I don't think he has them all confirmed yet, but check him out. December 21st, Youngstown State University. He also wants to know about the shot put glove. Now, I've had my fingers pulled back on several occasions throwing heavy stones or heavy shot puts, and it sucks. And it'll screw you up. It'll leave you injured for quite a while. Check out his shot put glove. It prevents that from happening, helps those fingers stay nice and strong. Also, if you're throwing in cold weather and the hands don't get warm fast, it's awesome for that. So check them out. Rohdisport.com. That's RODHESPORT.com. Use the code SAVAGESPORT, all one word, all capitals, at checkout. Iron and Stone Strength. Iron and Stone Strength is a fantastic group of people out of the Buffalo, New York area. They have the best gear around. I love their shirts. They're super soft and comfy. Hats, sweatshirts, sweatpants. They can't keep the stuff on the shelves. Give them a holler. Get your stuff while they last, man. He does limited runs on things, and the stuff is really cool and goes really fast. And you're seeing some of the awesome athletes like Jared Pritchard wearing them and some super strong cats. So if you're into super high quality, very comfy clothes, give them a holler. IronandStoneStrength.com. Use the code RefineSavage at checkout. Finally today, Speakeasy Leather. Speakeasy and I have been talking. I've been talking with the company for a while now. They make fantastic leather goods, wallets and key fobs and knife holders, anything you want like that. I love the wallet they sent me. I use it every day. It's getting like a patina on it now, starting to look sharp. I really dig it. Very, very classy looking stuff that you won't be embarrassed. You know, if you got one of those Velcro wallets like I know some of you dorks are still carrying, get rid of that thing. Get yourself a Speakeasy leather wallet. You'll love it. I promise you. Let's see who we have today on the show. Oh, my right-hand man, Zac Papay. We sat down, we talked a little bit. He's in the middle of his high school football season. We talked a little bit about training athletes and just shooting the shit in general. It's always cool when Zach's on the show. I think you'll enjoy this one. Go ahead. Like I said earlier, go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star and a review. And it better be a good review. If you want to leave us a shitty review, go somewhere else. And sit back with some Viking coffee, enjoy the show, and we'll see you at the end. Zac Papay, Friday morning. Welcome to the show.
What's up? We're finally doing this.
I know, we've been trying to set up a time to do this, and you're usually working for me when I'm free and vice versa. So
right.
it's kind of difficult to do these things. We are in this is week 6 of the high school football season.
Week 6 of the high school football season.
And we are two victories.
2 victories.
You're telling me how there is still a chance you could make the playoffs last night?
The chance is still there. You know, we talk about it, but then again, we don't. You know, you just kind of got to take it one game at a time.
Yeah, you're not going to make the playoffs. There's no way that's going to happen.
We'll see. Yeah, it's been interesting because I got kind of thrown under the bus to be the defensive coordinator because
you had a coach quit or something.
Moved down to Florida with his family. So then that was in like the beginning of July, and then I was the most senior defensive coach on the staff. And I got asked if I wanted to do it. So
you were the most senior defensive coach. It's your second year.
It's my second year.
Yeah, right.
So essentially, I was the only defensive coach left because we're trying to do this two-way system or one-way system, and it's been fun so far. Though it's been interesting. I didn't know how I would do as a coordinator, just because of the fact that a lot of these high school coaches played Division III, Division II, college football, and they know a lot more of the X's and O's than I did going in. But
I don't think it's as complicated as they make it out.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding out. You know, it's not too complicated.
I remember we had it when I was in high school. We had this offensive coordinator who played at like Ball State or something, and the year before, or 2 years before, when we were sophomores, we were on JV and we went 10-0 and were unscored upon. And we had this.
You ran like 2 plays, right?
One play. So we had Gary Orsino was our coach, and he was the guy who got all the shit jobs because Gary was like super laid back, and he was like an Amherst kid, so they kind of threw all the shit jobs on him. So him and this guy named Mark Netzel, who was kind of this hillbilly guy. Was he still there when you were?
Did he play? Was he? You're talking. He was coaching, right?
Yeah.
He was still there. He was the
shop teacher,
wood tech teacher.
So they, as sophomores, we were on JV and we were 10-0, unscored upon, and we ran the same play every time. So the linemen at the time, you know, this was 1990, 89, like 1990, and really, you didn't have organized weightlifting back then. So myself, the guard, and the tackle on the right side were all guys who lifted weights. So we were like way stronger and faster than everybody else we played against because nobody else lifted weights. So we had the 3 of us, and then we had this really good running back named Brian Voss, and we had this, you know, everyone's got that kid on the team who's like running his heads into lockers and shit, and always getting into fist fights.
Just a crazy guy.
So that was Eric Argeni, and he was the fullback. And then we had this quarterback who wasn't very good, but he could hand the ball off, you know. So we would run the same play every time. So it was they actually moved the tackle, Scott Lockman, to guard, So I was at center. Lockman, who was 285 pounds, was
Right.
the guard, and then they moved Ryan Bailey, who was probably 250, to tackle, and they ran between me and Scott Lockman every play. So the first play from scrimmage on week one, or on the first game, was this 42 power wedge. So we shut our splits down to like maybe 6 inches, and we would just push forward, and then the fullback would push forward, and the running back would get the ball. Well, we got 5 yards on the first play, so Orsino just ran it again, and he just ran it and so these teams were like, "What the fuck?" And we would do different sets, but we'd always run that same play. So for 10 games, we ran the same play every play, the whole season, and just crushed people.
That's great.
And then we got to varsity and got with a different defensive or offensive coordinator who wanted to run all these crazy. We ended up running a single wing, which is like I'm snapping the ball to either the fullback, the tailback, or the quarterback, and then they run different directions and all this misdirection shit.
Really confusing.
And we ended up going. We went from 10-0 to 5-5 our senior year. So we went 10-0, and then it was like 6-4, 5-5.
Nowadays, like our whole strategy is we want all our schemes to be the same out of every single formation. So we have maybe like 6 or 7 different looks on both offense and defense, where our schemes, whether it's like a zone play or on defense, you're sending a backer, 2 backers, etc. You can run the same calls out of every different look that you're giving. That way it keeps it simple for the kids.
Yeah.
They can put the things in compartments inside their head where it's easier for them to block things off. So it's like, okay, the first part of the call is the formation. You get the formation. Second part of the call is the scheme, and the scheme's always the same.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit easier for the kids. What I like, I don't know. When I got asked to be the coordinator, I kind of, like I said, I was really nervous before, but then I thought about every good coach that I ever had and what did they do. And the biggest thing that stuck to me was the kids enjoyed being around them, and I thoroughly liked my coach. You know what I mean? Right. And then I thought, well, then why does that make a good coach? And if you can get the kids to, number one, like you, but you have to set kind of a fine line when you do that, though, because they're kids and they'll do dumb stuff. But if they like you and then they believe in you, then they'll do anything that you ask.
Yeah.
And that's really all high school football comes down to, is you want 11 kids on the field who you trust and you know they're going to do exactly what they ask because they believe in you. And I think I've done a good job of doing that so far.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's been a struggle this year with Hayden, his first year in varsity, because I have very high expectations of coaches, and I coached track and field for 15 years, and
you coached football too.
I coached the weight room in football for 3, and so I have, and I have, you've seen in the gym, I have unrealistic expectations of everybody, you know, so, I live a very Spartan existence, a very, I'm reading books, since I was 10 years old on samurai and this.
Right. You have a high standard for yourself, so you hold others to that same standard.
Yeah, and, his football coach, who is in a horrible position. They started the season with no seniors. He's coaching football in an incredibly soft community. I mean, this is we make fun of one of our members in here has 4 kids, and she's our yoga instructor, and I make fun of how soft the kids are, and she it's a joke. She's been my friend since I was 9 years old, but. It's a community of sailors. I mean, it's the Vermilion sailors, and there's a sail team, and there's a swim team, and there's the tennis team is good, and it's I call it the white privilege school. It's not a wealthy community, but you have all these
It's very diverse. It's either you're a wealthy or
total rock person,
right.
Meth head,
Yeah.
It's a tourist town, and so all these kids are very soft, and we've seen it coming up. And of course, I have unrealistic expectations for Hayden, and he's had to live with that his whole life. But he's playing varsity as a freshman right now and doing all right. He got skill team player of the week last week. But for the coach, having to deal with these kids who have never had any adversity, they've never had to overcome anything. They've been allowed to kind of set their own standards as far as training and athletics. And I watch them after games. And I can remember losing games in high school or throwing shitty in track and just being devastated for 3 or 4 days afterwards. And then I see these kids afterwards, and the next day, or even in the parking lot when I go to pick Hayden up after the game, and they're laughing and giggling and screwing around. It means nothing to them.
Yeah.
So I've had talks with him where don't let that rub off on you. It's okay to still be pissed off that you lost the football game, and it's going to have to be to the point where, like, he had a fantastic game last week, but they lost 48-0.
Yeah.
So I've had to try to say to him, you need to take this team sport and break it down into an individual. How well did I play? And how well did I do my job? And did I do all the things I was supposed to do, even though the lace curtain motherfucker next to me didn't do his job, So
yeah,
I really want to keep that grind in him where he actually does get pissed off when he does poorly, and he keeps just telling me, 5 more weeks, Dad, till I can start throwing. 5 more weeks. Not that he stopped throwing, but where he can start focusing on that. And,
that's something I'm seeing a lot more in every sport, I think, from kids nowadays is I don't know if it's a social media thing, if it's kids are just, I don't know, but like it's hard. Very rarely do I ever see teams when they lose that are like really upset.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Remember, we used to come home from football games and we'd be dead silent on the bus if you lost,
Right, dead silent on the bus. And now I think kids just can escape quicker nowadays because they have their phone on the bus,
Yep.
Like, it's just like, mind's off the game, completely forget about it. And they don't sit there and they don't analyze why they lost.
Right.
And then the other part of that is part of the team aspect is also taken away with social media and stuff, because I think stats nowadays are blowing out of proportion. So if you have a kid that's good on your team and your team lost, and he may not have even done his job on every single play. He may have only had like 5 or 6 good plays, but broke like 50-yard runs, you know what I mean? And then his stat line's like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's like, well, I did my part.
Yeah.
Well, then there may have been plays where he was on the field and he didn't block for somebody else that stalled an offensive drive.
Right.
Or maybe you made a good play, a good sack on defense, but you didn't have your gap responsibility, and that losing your gap responsibility more than one play hurts the edge or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, kids are just, they're okay as long as their stats look good. And
we watched 300 last night, and I'm always having Hayden watch these movies. So it was my birthday last night. I had a big, giant porterhouse steak and 3 or 4 things of rum, and Hayden was upstairs. He finished his homework, and I called him down. I said, hey, you want to watch this movie? And he's like, yeah. So he was digging it. And I said, can you imagine if we took Vermilion kids and started training them at 7 years old? Shut up, Sydney. Started training them at 7 years old the way that you should train athletes, So there's no reason for 7-year-old kids to be playing football in pads. Okay, so I think Hayden started like in 4th grade or something.
It's killing the sport of football.
It is, and you have dumb parents who, again, God bless them for volunteering, but you can't. I remember going to see Boris Shako talk at Ashland, and he talked about the Russian system of training. And for those people who are out there too young to remember the Soviet Union, believe it or not, there's people out there who don't remember the Soviet Union. What year were you born?
93.
Okay, so that was after the fall of the Soviet Union. He talked about the Soviet system and the way they trained athletes, and what they did was they took these kids at 6, 7, 8 years old, and they started them in general physical preparedness. They taught them to skip and jump and do gymnastics, and they're all doing this stuff, and stretch and do basic PT stuff, physical training. And then they would watch these kids develop and then push them towards sports and maybe shuffle them around. So maybe, this kid at 12 looks like he could be a weightlifter, but okay, he's getting a little bit too tall. Let's move him towards the javelin and see how he does there. And what you have here is a kid reaches the age of 5 years old. Oh, we're going to throw him right into flag football. Flag football, he's never done shit in his life, but he throws him into flag football. And then comes 7, 8 years old, bam, they go right into tackle football. And then by the time they can reach varsity football, they may have had 3 concussions already,
Right.
So Hayden had a concussion when he was 10, playing soccer. I told him one more and you're done. We're not going to fuck around with that. I probably had 3 or 4 concussions when I played football, and that's why you hear me on this podcast as a stuttering motherfucker, because I can't always find the words I'm trying to pull out of my head, So who knows what kind of brain trauma you had when we were playing when we were younger. They didn't have any concussion testing or anything like that. But, I think they'd be better off if they put physical education back into schools, real physical education, and just train these kids.
We've talked about that before on the show. Physical education in schools is just a joke nowadays.
Yeah. And they just need, I would like to see some development, not just, because I think you would get more athletes out of it by the time they got to high school. You wouldn't have so many people quit. You wouldn't have so many injuries.
So the other part of the problem with youth football is, like you were saying, the parents that coach it get too caught up in winning.
Yes, yeah.
So they start playing at I forget what our youngest league is, but
I think it's 5.
Yeah, it's young. And then there's parents that are this 5-year-old who may be slightly more developed than another 5-year-old. They're just playing those, what I think they do, eight man football,
something
now,
like that.
Something like that. So they're playing the best 8 kids, and they're not playing everybody that's on the team. And the kids that aren't getting reps as a 5-year-old are like, I don't like football because I'm not playing.
Yeah.
So then they immediately get this bad stigma about football. They don't want to play it. They're not good, and they're 5 years old.
Yeah.
And even that even goes up through junior high. Like when I was in high school, our running back in junior high did not last. I think it was our 3rd string running back, all through junior high, freshman year, and then our 3rd string running back ended up starting JV our sophomore year, and then he ended up being our varsity running back for 2 years.
Yeah.
Kids develop differently, and just because you're good when you're in 7th grade doesn't mean you're going to be good in high school. So I think a lot of the problem comes from parents wanting to win, and they I'm gonna play this kid, he's really good, blah blah. They don't get everybody involved. Football at that age needs to be fun.
Yeah.
You need to teach fundamentals. It doesn't matter if you win or lose, just have fun. And as stupid as that sounds, you don't need to win when you're 5 years old.
No, yeah.
And that's a huge problem in my opinion. That's not only just football, that's all sports with, what do they do? JO volleyball now, travel league softball, travel baseball. What's the basketball league? I
don't even know.
Yeah, they have travel basketball. I forget what it's called. I'm not a big basketball guy, but same thing. And it's just scaring athletes away.
Well, and it's a scam for the parents. So JO volleyball or year-round swimming or travel baseball, it's all a scam. It's a way for them. It's incredibly expensive. It's incredibly time consuming, and it keeps kids from doing other athletic activities, like doing other sports or training. If you gave me two kids with everything equal, and one kid played JO volleyball and high school volleyball, so she's playing year-round volleyball, and if you gave me the other kid with all the equals, and she was playing just varsity volleyball with her high school and trained, in the weight room and did other athletic activities, I would almost guarantee the one who did the training and the other athletic stuff would become a superior player, because we're going to increase her speed, we're going to increase her strength, her vertical jump, her stamina, and you're probably a lot less injury prone, because you're not getting these repetitive motion injuries from jumping and spiking and all that kind of stuff. And parents don't get it, because parents aren't spending the time we are dealing with athletes and reading things on the internet. And these coaches kind of talk them into this. Well, if your kid wants to be good, they better be playing year round, which is, if you listen to every good college coach, they say that's not the way to go. We're looking for multi-sport athletes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you just don't see that anymore. You have kids that just play baseball. They just play baseball year round, and that may come down to a softness too, that baseball is pretty physically easy.
Right.
It's a technical skill, but it's not physically difficult.
Yeah. I think the weight training part about it, the most beneficial thing you get out of it is injury prevention.
Yeah.
This is our first year actually lifting heavy throughout the football season, and we've only had one serious injury, and it was a kid, his first year playing. He broke his collarbone the first game.
Yeah, that's not even a muscular. I mean, that's a...
Yeah. So we haven't had any serious injuries. We lift 3 times a week, and kids are doing good.
Are you lifting 3 times a week now in season?
Yep. We lift, we do a heavy squat on Wednesday. We do the EMOM styles like I've talked about before. So we'll do 5 back squats, 10 dumbbell incline bench, 10 push-ups. And we only go for 18 minutes, so they get 6 sets of everything in. They're adding weight on the primary exercise every time, and they're just looking for strain during season.
Yeah.
You have to be realistic as a coach. The kids are going to feel sore. They're going to feel banged up because we lift after practice, so the weight may not always be heavy, but you're just looking for that strain that Louis talks about at Westside. So if it looks hard, then it's probably the right weight. And so we do that on Wednesday. Thursday, we just do a light, quick stim lift. So we just do speed bench, 6 sets of 3, and then we do high pulls, 6 sets of 3. And then Saturday morning after the game Friday night, we do heavy bench press in that same EMOM format. And just this week, last week was week 5, so we're halfway. We lowered the reps from 5 to 3, so that the volume's going down, the intensity's going up a little bit, and then depending on where we're at, weeks 9 and 10, we may even just drop the intensity and do speed work.
Right.
So try to taper off a little bit. But yeah, we're lifting heavy, and that's something that the head coach was on board with when I talked to him. He's like, "Yeah, that's great. Let's do it." We found a way to make practice more efficient so that we have that. And it only takes 30 minutes.
Right.
That's the great part about it. We'll do the 18-minute EMOM, and then we'll do some sort of jumps or med balls, and we're done in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't think Hayden lifts at all right now in season, which is because my primary focus for him is the throws, and it's basically wasting. It's been, they're in week 6, but it's been probably 8 weeks since they've really lifted weights, and I drag him in here every chance I get, and I'm hoping they give him tomorrow morning off so I can drag him in here again to get some lifting in. But it's 8 weeks of not lifting weights,
right? And
it's
a huge culture change for a lot of programs to be able to do that.
Well, and you need someone there. You can't. So we have. This will come out way after the Dan Ingles podcast, but we've got Dan Ingles scheduled for next week. and he is a strength coach for a giant high school. I can't remember the name of the high school down in Columbus area. And we talked about how a lot of these football teams regulate the job of strength coach to, the coach who works out, or the coach who lifted in high school, or, who has some fake ass stats from his team 20 years ago. And it's kind of like, okay, yeah, you go ahead and do the weightlifting. And they don't know what the hell they're doing. And you take one of the most important jobs in a football program and make it the least thought about, or the least, the coach with really nothing to give, put into that position. So they have no idea how to program. They have no idea how to adjust for their teams, or how to, look at a team coming in the weight room and go, these guys don't have it today, or, okay, let's amp it up. These guys look really good. And it's super dangerous because, like I said, it should be one of the most important jobs in the football program, and you've got the least qualified person running it. And, I was talking to Aaron the other day. If Hayden's football coach came to me this year and said, hey, I want you to take over the strength and conditioning program, after watching 5 weeks of this so far, I would really have to strip everything down to the bare bones. And when I say that, I mean day one would have to start maybe a week or two after the season ended, and we would have to go back to hard PT for at least a month and a half, 2 months of, here's how you do an air squat, here's how you do a proper push-up, let's run a mile, let's do sit-ups, not crunches, because if you tell a kid in high school now to do sit-ups, they do a crunch. Now, I understand sit-ups is not the ultimate ab exercise. What I'm looking for is mental toughness and overall body mechanics, and can you do a sit-up, if you're on the ground, and burpees and pull-ups, and it would just be bodyweight PT for at least a month and a half, 2 months. And I would have to tell the coach, you're going to have some kids quit. And when you're dealing with 31 kids right now, that's going to be a hard pill to swallow for a coach, that you may have some kids quit. But I think you would go to war with 24 lions instead of 32 sheep. Right. And I think it would be a hard pill to swallow, but they would have to learn all that stuff and get better at all that stuff before we even put a bar on their back. And it might take 4 or 5 workouts a week of that for a month and a half, and really just putting the screws to them, not only in the PT work but also in the discipline aspect. We would make that team disciplined. They would, there would be something like everybody wearing the same T-shirt every day, and there would be no cell phones anywhere near it, and there would be a proper way to address a coach, and standing up when the coaches came into the room. You'd have to just break them down to bare bones, bare minimum training, like a boot camp style, like a military boot camp style, because that's what military boot camp is about, is breaking down that individual to create a team and a disciplined warrior who's going to do what you ask him to do every time. You can't expect to throw kids out there with no discipline and have them stay on the path. They're going to go every which direction. They're going to chase after that shiny object, when they're supposed to be staying in their lane and taking care of a certain job, and that looks like it could be the way to make a tackle over there, and then they run across the field and it's a fake, and they get sucked in. And you have to build that discipline first, and the coaching staff has to be disciplined. You have to show and lead by example. You can't be an undisciplined coach and expect a disciplined team.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah. Cell phones are definitely a huge issue nowadays. Like, cell phones drive me nuts. Kids. Because you see them on them before the game, you see them on them after the game. They try to bring them to the weight room. I don't know if it was this year. It was last year. Somebody brought a cell phone in their pant we were in shorts and shoulder pads one day. They had their cell
Jeez.
phone in their shorts. I'm like, what is even going on?
Right.
Like that when I was in high school, 2000, so 8 years ago now, I wouldn't even have thought of bringing my cell phone out. But now it's just, they're just glued to it because that's the way all the apps and the cell phones are designed. Is you have this like anxiety if you don't have your cell phone on you.
Yeah, I didn't install it. It was already in my phone. I just didn't realize I had it. It's a screen time calculator, and I love it because now it becomes another contest for me. How low can I get that screen time every day?
Right.
And that's been a huge help, and that's the way I do everything. So, I've got my CPAP that I sleep with every night. So every night or every morning I wake up to see how well I slept. It gives me readouts. Oh, I won. I did better than I did last night. Or I'll put a list by my seat in the living room, and I can check off things I'm supposed to do today. And I won. I got through all those things. And that's just another contest for me that feeds into my psychosis. But it works really well, and I think it's too early to understand how much an effect the cell phones have on kids because we're so new into this, but I don't like it at all. And I think it does take away from a lot of focus. Yeah. And it keeps these kids from being able to focus on things for long periods of time because everything is so fast.
It's all about self-control, which comes back to discipline.
Yeah.
You got to find a way to teach the kids how to have some sort of self-control with their cell phones.
Yeah.
Because it's just, yeah.
The one strength and conditioning job I had for football team was with Amherst, and I went in and talked to the coach, similarly the way I talked to Hayden's coach this year, but I went in, I said, here's my resume. All I want to do is work your weight room. I don't want to coach your defensive ends. I don't want to have any responsibility on the field. I want to give you, the hour of me in the weight room this many days a week, whenever you need it. And all I'm going to do is give you a better weapon with which to work with. And he loved it. He loved the idea, hired me immediately. The other coaches on the staff hated me. Because they all wanted that extra job because it was more money, and I wasn't one of the staff that had been there losing for 5 years, so they hated me. I hated them. Matter of fact, there was only one or two people on that staff that I liked, and one of the poor guys is dead now. So it was pretty good because that's all I did was I just worked in the weight room. And I told him right off the bat that this was going to be difficult, and he may have some kids quit, and they were nowhere near as bad as the team that I offered to help last year. And they ended up doing really well, and the kids got really strong, and we had a much higher base level when they came in. So I remember my last year there coaching that senior class that I had started as sophomores. We had the starting offensive line. One of them was Ben Cooksey, who was coaching here. They were all box squatting 500 pounds. They were all bench pressing 300 pounds, and they were all deadlifting over 500 pounds.
Right.
So the entire offensive line were fucking animals for high school kids. But it took a base as sophomores and building them up and getting them there. But there's no high school teams that have that anymore,
Right.
And I wasn't doing anything fancy with them, know?
Yeah. So what I always tell the other coaches, athletic director, when they ask me about doing something in the weight room, showing me all this fancy stuff, I'm like, look, when a kid comes in as a freshman, I see him on a 4-year plan, Yeah. There's no quick answer to anything. Like, you're looking at I want this kid to be like this. Well, it's going to take 4 years to get there.
Right,
and
right.
We are now, this is going to be a year and a half that we've kept kind of the same lifting program, and kids are progressing amazing. And then when we talk about what can we do to improve it, blah, blah, blah. What I've thought about so far is now that the kids, we've been benching, back squat, and we have trap bar deadlifts. Trap bar deadlifts are just an easy way to keep the kids' form safe. Doing
Fine.
deadlifts.
Fuck yeah, who cares?
You're
pulling.
Wait, I've never seen a kid grab a trap bar deadlift and round his back head.
Right.
Or I can't fix it in like one or two coaching cues, but it's harder with the bar when everybody's just deadlifting with the bar. The trap bars are so easy, convenient.
Yep.
We have them. We're going to use them. And I'm thinking about it. Now that the kids have those, they've finally learned the skill set for those 3 exercises. And mind you, we have to go back occasionally and check form again, reteach form, because they get to a certain weight and the bad habits start creeping back in, and you got to strip it back down. But then now we can implement more variations of those lifts. So maybe every 5 weeks we change the back squat to a front squat. Maybe we take the trap bar out and do regular deadlifts.
Yeah.
Maybe we do an incline bench press instead of a regular bench press, and we can start adding more variations in so that the kids are still improving.
Right.
You know. But when we first started, good God, remember watching kids do push-ups, and some of the starters couldn't even do 10 push-ups.
Right.
I was like, what in the world are we doing here?
Yep.
You know, and now all the kids can bust out 25 push-ups and they look pretty decent. They can do pull-ups, they can do sit-ups.
Yep.
And we built that base for a year, and I'm excited to see what can happen, because we're already starting to see some of the results. So you weren't there when Hayden's team played ours, but one of the things you notice is with the Division 4 team, we still have a bunch of one-way players, which is very beneficial because they're not getting exhausted.
Yeah.
And part of the design of the program is we want our average or below average player to be better than your average player.
Right.
You know what I mean? And part of the way that you do that is you design your weight room to help out those guys by building their base. You may have the top athlete on your team may have already have that base, but the weight rooms, it's for him, but it's not really for him.
Right.
You want those below average guys to be average, above average.
Yeah, your
players.
studs are always going to be your studs.
Your studs are always going to be your studs. So we have people that may have not even been considered to be on the field, and they're not doing a bad job of it.
Right.
You know, and we have a lot of sophomores and juniors that are contributing right now, and that's only going to help us in years to come. So I enjoy coaching in the weight room for high school football. It's fun to watch kids get onto the field and work their way up. And
we had
progress.
And this podcast will come out before too. Coach Sobel from Jeff Sobel from Kent State, and he's in his second year there, and he's got a really interesting program. And one of the things they've implemented is this Katana program. So they take all their redshirt freshmen who aren't going to contribute at all this year, and they just have them training year round, doing these crazy workouts, and they're doing regular weightlifting, but they're also doing like super hard metcons too.
Right.
And he's just trying to make these guys into animals, you know, just while they don't have to be worried about being sore or tired. He's just killing them and getting them as strong and as fast and as in shape as possible. And I love it. And he was talking about how much he loves working with those kids because they're just all on board and getting after it. And
yeah, you form a bond with those two. It's like really good for team chemistry too, when everybody's suffering together.
Yeah.
And then you just feel closer.
The only problem is that we talked about was that a strength coach's career can be so quick because they fire the head coach. So you know, they have to give them, you know, legitimately you have to give a coach, especially in college or high school, 5-6 years, because you're dealing with kids that, I mean, not so much in high school because you get the kids you get, but you might be dealing with a bunch of kids that you didn't recruit for a system they're not recruited for. And, you know, legitimately, you got to give them some time to get your own kids in there, get them through 4 years of a training program and see how they do to turn a culture around. So hopefully they'll give those guys, because Kent State historically isn't a very good football program, but this is a winning program, a winning coach that they brought in, and Coach Sobel's with them. So hopefully they'll give him some time. And that was a really good podcast. He's a really smart dude. I'm going to have him on again soon.
Yeah. I really like Metcons for football players too, because it's more inside the constraints that they play in,
Yeah.
Where so with EMOMs, they're doing an exercise that maybe takes them 20 seconds,
right,
and then they get 40 seconds rest, which is about what the game clock is. So then the conditioning you need to do outside, like the old school, we're going to do 10 100-yard sprints. We don't do any of that.
Yeah.
And our kids, like, we don't have a problem with people being gassed. We don't have a problem with people cramping, and they look conditioned, which is good. And we don't need to spend that extra time of like, we're gonna do 10 40-yard sprints or whatever now. So we occasionally do that for sure, but I can't even remember the last time that we've done that.
I'm wondering if, and this is, how I've been lately with programming and trying shit out and kind of pushing the boundaries of what is necessary versus fluff for programming. And
your philosophy has completely changed.
Completely. And I'm wondering if you got a hold of a high school football team, not even let them go into a weight room, and you just got a bunch of tires, maybe some pull-up bars, and had them doing different versions of PT and tire flips within some kind of
it would 100% help.
Right. I'm wondering if you would even need anything else other than free tires from the local truck store that sells tires. And because I think if you've ever flipped a heavy tire, you realize, and you've played on an offensive or defensive line, you realize, or wrestled, how much that is similar to what you're doing and how you work every muscle from the back of your heel to the top of your neck every time you touch that thing. And it's been floating through my head now for a few months that, man, what if we just had kids flip tires or lift Atlas stones and do pull-ups and push-ups and sit-ups and run, and what you would get out of it. And when you look at Hayden, he hasn't done much more than that his whole life. It's always been strongman stuff because it's super hard to hurt yourself. Once you show the basic technique and reiterate, certain cues along the way, it's very difficult. Your body naturally finds positions.
And you're using everything.
Yeah.
To flip a tire, to lift an Atlas stone. And it's just,
Now, if you're looking like you are, like you and Hammy are trying to get to total night and lift really big weights in the bench and deadlift, that's totally different. Or if you have a high-level discus thrower who, I'll concede that, you might need to train them slightly differently, but when you're dealing with high school and college athletes and in a football or a football or a wrestling or even like volleyball and shit like that, I don't think you need to be as specific. They don't need to be on the conjugate style programming, or they don't need to be doing trivasic training and all this crazy. Fuck all that nonsense. Get them working really hard and working with really heavy weights that they can't hurt themselves with. And I think that's that.
There's definitely scientific evidence to back that up too, because I remember Judd, when I went down to the high school conference for track and field, there was, I forget the name of the guy who was presenting what he did, but he had worked with Judd before, and he was talking about forget how it was phrased, the correlation of exercises and how far you threw. And
right.
I had all these numbers up on the board. And I text Judd and I was like, hey, you know where this guy got these numbers for? I want to look at it. And it was I believe it was Bondarchuk's transfer of training.
Right.
And in there he looks at the correlation of efficiency, I think it was called, of these different exercises and how far people were throwing.
Right.
So
that's a really good point.
For the average shot putter, maybe like a 15-meter shot putter, there was not much difference in the correlation between a bench and a snatch.
Yeah.
But then as you got to a higher level, the snatch became more important than the bench press.
Well, when I talk to
then you even get, I think the high like level hammer throwers, how high you could box jump had a higher correlation than any of the weightlifting exercises.
So I've talked to Justin Rohde, and we talked about some of the weight training they did with Bondarchuk, and it was very limited and specific to throwing. So they were doing a lot of like kettlebell throws and heavy dumbbell throws and jumping, and they would do some front squatting and stuff like that, but it wasn't like, all right, you're going to go in the weight room for an hour and you're going to front squat, and then you're going to do your leg curls, and you're going to do your RDLs, and you're going to do your glute ham raises, yada, yada, yada. They would throw, lift, throw, and the lifting was, and they would throw specific things. So they were throwing heavy puds, and they were doing all this shit that I think most throws coaches would look at and go, oh, we need a lot more than that, but you don't, because you're not building bodybuilders who throw. You're building throwers who may end up looking like bodybuilders.
Right.
And there's a million different ways to skin the cat, but I'm looking for the most minimalistic way, the most efficient way to get kids strong in a half hour. And I don't think, and the more I look at it, the more I see it in the strongman lifts. And we're going to go down and do a talk at Ashland in December. So December 13th and 14th, this will come out before then. Ashland has a fantastic strength and conditioning seminar every year. And this year it's 2 days. I'm speaking, Derek Witzke's speaking, Adrian Smith, Ryan Fanley, Jance Footet, and I'm sure I'm forgetting one or two other people. But I'm going to go down and talk about using the strongman lifts in athletics. And I'm going to say right off the bat, I have no scientific degree. I have no scientific studies. I have no long-term observations. I have the last probably 2.5, 3 years of how we switched everything, well, about 2 years of how we switched everything around in here. And what's interesting to me is that we're doing a lot less auxiliary lifts. We're hitting max effort work a lot less frequently, but our conditioning has gone way up. We're using a lot more strongman events, but when we come back to the deadlift, the squat, and the bench press, all the lifts are still going up. And some of these people are not newbies. A vast majority of them have been in the program 3, 5, 6 years, and they're still making improvements. So I don't have a lot of the scientific background that people have, but I think that actually might be a good thing, because I'm not clouded with, oh, I can't do that because so-and-so says I can't do that. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're going to see. We'll talk about it at Ashland with the caveat that I don't have a scientific background in this. This is how we use strongman events in training with our athletes, and we're seeing some success with it, and maybe you should give it a try, because an Atlas Stone, to me, is not much different than a power clean, other than the fact that you can't fuck it up. So
right.
That's basically what we're going to look at,
Yeah, and that'll be a really interesting talk, and I think that a lot of people just need to be more open to how they program.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get closed-minded. They've trained one way their whole life.
Yep.
They have one really good coach who programmed one way, and that's the only way that they do it.
Well, I look at it now as, for the first, 15 years of my being a higher level athlete and coaching, I was a Judd disciple, and then I became a Louis disciple. And finally, at the age of, say, 44, I went my own way and started to look at things from a different angle. And I could not be happier with the progress I'm making at 46 years old. And I look around and, arguably my goals for my clients are different than, say, Well, Judd's are for his throwers. His main concern is throwing far. I look at the majority of the people I have, and we have athletes in here who I want to see run fast and jump high and be strong. But I kind of want Allison Beach to be that way too. Who's a mom and a lawyer. So my goals for my people are performance based and to look awesome. Right. So I think we're seeing people start to really have some body transformations, and as long as the weights are going up and the speed is going up and the endurance is going up, I'm not worried. I'm not looking at that as a negative effect. Oh, they're getting lean, they're getting more muscular looking. That's great. Just because you see that a lot with, well, I'm only worried about performance goals, and it's almost an excuse to look like shit. And if that's your deal, then that's fine. You can be chunky and still be strong, but I don't think anyone comes into this gym wanting to stay fat. The performance is great, and the young athletes that come in here are all about performance, but the 40-year-old guy wants to get strong, but he also wants to look good, and I think the strongman events within 20, 30, 40-minute Metcons are the biggest hammer and chisel for your money. It's the easiest way to just chisel these people into some solid-looking athletes,
Yeah, for sure.
And we're going to start training more and more tactical people. And I'd love to get more tactical athletes in here. We're not in a position to work with, say, special operations. There's no special operations people up here. There's people who want to get into special operations, and I think that our system would help. That we got one kid going into the Marine Corps right now, and he's stepped his game up considerably. And I think the kid, I can't wait for him to go through Marine Corps boot camp, because if he can get through if he can get through the mental aspect of being screamed at every 5 seconds, which would have been my biggest problem. I think he's going to just bury everybody in the physical conditioning shit, because he is becoming an animal.
Right.
And it was a kid who, a year and a half ago, couldn't do a fucking air squat without his knees collapsing and his background. And he was. I love him to death, and he's doing so well right now. But he was absolute dog shit when it came to the weight room, and he was lifting for his soccer team for 3 years, and there was no. It looked like he had never lifted a weight in his life,
Right.
So some coach was having him squat and watching those knees come in and watching the back bend over and going, oh yeah, he'll be fine, So yeah, that kid's gonna kill it when he gets there. And we just had Unicorn went through Army boot camp and did great. And so this place is ideally suited to get you through military training if you put in the work and get in here.
It's good to do this before you go into basic training, in my opinion.
I think so too.
It builds that base up. Kind of has a similar feel. The long Metcons that we do in here always make me feel like I'm going through fall conditioning at Ashland again. You know what I mean?
That's when I get older guys in here in their 40s, it used to be, I don't think they do this anymore for football, but you used to have like 3 weeks of just conditioning before you got to two-a-days. So you had to go in and you would just condition for 3 weeks, and it was brutal. But when you got done with it, you felt fucking invincible. And that's how I get a lot of 40-year-olds to understand our programming. I said, do you remember how you felt after high school football conditioning when you were a kid? They're like, oh yeah, that was the best shape I've ever been in your life. Welcome to Blind Dog. You're going to feel that way every day after the first 90 days. You're going to feel fantastic, And that's a very easy way for me to get guys my age to understand the programming, So how long do they put you through in Ashland? What's it?
Oh, I want to say like 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I do like 4 weeks of conditioning.
And it's a way to not only get you guys in shape, but weed out the people who aren't going to give 100% effort.
Yep. They're miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's my philosophy.
A little bit of anxiety going to practice on some days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's my philosophy with if I were to take over the strength and conditioning program for Hayden's football team. That I don't want sheep. I want lions who are going to never back down and never quit and just always get after it. And you can build that. It takes some discipline and finding the right path, but it's up to us as coaches to show them that path.
Right.
That's where we're
I've
at.
been training the complete opposite of how we've been talking.
Yeah.
So,
but you have a specific
right.
goal in mind.
Yeah. So I've been lifting heavy twice. So we have 2 max effort days, and then we, instead of speed day, we do a volume day. And I always joke with you, I do like a Snickers bar every hour.
Right.
I've been trying to gain weight, which is super frustrating. Like, gaining weight is 10 times harder than losing weight.
It is tough, yeah.
Coming from somebody who lost a bunch of weight, I hate gaining. Like, it just mentally drains me more than it does losing weight.
Yeah.
Losing weight, you need to not do something, which is, in my opinion, is pretty easy. It's just
you just have to deny yourself. Yeah.
It's like, no. But then when you're trying to gain weight and you don't want to eat, you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
I have to fucking eat right now.
Yep.
So I've been doing Cliff Bars because they're just easy to shove down my throat.
People think that that's like some diet. It's all fucking carbs and
it's a
sugar
bunch of
in
shit.
there.
I'm just like,
It's
I'm
gross.
gonna eat this. I'm just going to shove this down my throat.
Aaron does nutritional programming for people, and people always come in, well, can I have Cliff Bars? Those are good for you. No, they're fucking not good for you. You might as well just eat a Snicker bar.
It's great. I've been recently, I think I weighed myself today. I was 245. So when I started trying to gain weight, God, how many months ago? It might be 5-6 months now. I was like 230.
Yeah.
And I was up to 245. So in like 5-6 months, I put on 15 pounds. And total night, November 8th, I'm just going to try to pull heavy weight. And then the other thing that I've noticed, so we hit a deadlift like every 4 weeks, me and Hammy do.
Yeah.
And like I told you, and this might even go back into the way that you've been programming the exercises are still going up. When the longer I don't do deadlifts, the better I get at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just because I'm more rested, more recovered, but the less I touch the deadlift, the more it goes up. And I remember I got that. I think I read something somewhere from Louis. He's like,
that used to be their philosophy there. I think it was Bob Peoples who was a good deadlifter. Said,
right.
Everything makes my deadlift go up except for deadlift.
Yep. And gosh, and me and Hammy will throw like bands on, do whatever every time we hit deadlift, and it amazes me every time.
Yeah.
That we pull a deadlift that it just feels better.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Total Night looks like. I took the squat out of there because the squat is problematic. We're getting people from other gyms. We're getting people from our gym who, they'll cut the squat high. Bench press, you're still going to get it. It's all you, and people helping. But at least we don't have to worry about spotting with,
Right.
3 guys on each platform and people posting videos of their mile-high squats.
Right.
You're either going to deadlift and pull heavy or you're not. And then when you're benching, if you post a video of you benching and people can obviously see the guy helping you because his veins are flexing as he's trying to pull the weight off you. It just was a way to keep it more legit.
Right.
So Total Night will end up being a push-pull now from now on probably. And that's good with us. And I'm gonna pull. I haven't bench pressed in forever, but I'm gonna go in and pull and just see how it goes.
I always try to get Mark to bench press with me on Tuesday.
I'm so fucking tight in my chest. Anyhow,
He's always doing burpees. If you haven't noticed,
doing a lot of burpees. I'm doing a lot of push-ups, dips, burpees. I loved. I read this book, The Quick and the Dead by Pavel Totsolin, and it was kind of a disappointment because he didn't really get into the programming of how to do it, but the basics of the book were that you could get away with training almost exclusively with kettlebells and push-ups, which is the workout I did yesterday. And you have to do some creative thinking to figure out exactly how to do it correctly and efficiently. But, man, yesterday I did a 30-minute EMOM, 20 seconds as hard as I could swing a 100-pound kettlebell as explosively for that first 20 seconds of the minute. So I'm trying to get as many reps as explosively as possible in 20 seconds. Then I would rest. go over to the dip bars, and I would do the same thing for dips. As many dips as I could get in 20 seconds. And you're just working really hard and being really explosive. And it was brutal, just 2 exercises like that. And I'm going to do that more often for me. And if it works for me, I'm going to start adding it into the program for the people in here too. And try to getting as minimal as possible with shit. Right. And I tell you what, when we move south, the next gym I purchase is going to have minimal equipment. It's going to have barbells. I don't know, man. I'm
Mark
sure
really
there
wants
will
to do
be
a gym with no barbells.
I'm getting more and more towards that. You know, more stones, more tires, more kegs.
You're gonna drive your boy Kerry Overfelt nuts.
He's stupid as fuck.
That's what I wanted to bring
I
up.
love when he gets some new piece of shitty equipment and posts it all over the place. Look at my wire spool that I painted black. It's now a kettlebell holder. What the fuck is wrong with you? He's such a hillbilly. It was an Atlas stone load, but he's got one of these. He's like just putting kettlebells on, or he'll like get some shitty piece of equipment from some no rank mud rolling company that you've never heard of, and then post it all over the place so they'll give him free shit later. You know, he's so transparent. What a fucking retard he is.
I've only hung out with Gary once.
He's so stupid.
A couple times, but he's one of my favorites.
The best is I don't get on Facebook anymore, but someone sent me. Someone said, "Hey, you gotta go check out this link." And when Judd, or I don't remember if it was Malcolm or Judd, someone posted the Ashland clinic, and Kerry, and Bill Baxter were getting on there busting my balls about it. Now, if you've never seen Bill Baxter is about 6'4" and about 400 pounds of spent garbage. I mean, he's just super fat. And when he started working with Kerry Overfelt, he was 360 pounds of spent garbage. So now he's 400 pounds of spent garbage, and he just loves Kerry to death because Kerry is like the consummate, you know, you're doing great, buddy. I can see the progress all over you. And I'm looking at him going, you're both fat as fuck, from my opinion, you know.
What do you call Kerry, the world's fattest bodybuilder?
The world's fattest bodybuilder. He trains all these bodybuilder girls, and we went to Swiss, and he's going to all these seminars on bikini girls and how to get bikini girls and shit. I think he just wants to look at fucking bikini girls because I don't know how you're a bikini girl and you go to that fat fuck and go, yeah, this is the guy I want training me to look like a figure competitor, you know? Other than maybe tanning tips. You could give him tanning tips because he's basically purple.
What did he take the
melanotan? It was called. Him and his girlfriend took this shit called melanotan. That's how they said it. We went to the doctor and we got this shit called melanotan, and they took these pills when they went on vacation, and I shit you not, they were fucking purple by the time they came back. They looked like Barney. Both of them were bright purple. Like, well, maybe we took too much. Maybe you did, you dumb fucking hillbilly. Oh, I can't believe you got me on carryover. Fucking asshole.
The best was there was like
this is my best friend too. We're talking.
There was like a 2-month span where me and Carrie just trolled your Instagram and Facebook account about you doing burpees.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It didn't work.
Great.
It didn't work. I just did more of them.
We were. There was probably a string of 7 days in a row where
I would wake up, a burpee.
I would wake up and I'd be like, "Who tagged me in something on Instagram?" And Carrie like tagged me. And remember, the one was like. Somebody said something about a pull-up challenge, and then he tagged you in it. He's like, Mark's in, except for instead of pull-ups, he's doing burpees. And then the other one was you on the playground doing burpee pull-ups or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, that poor kid that's waiting to use the pull-up bar.
Right. Yeah, he's a disgusting fat body. You know, the three of us, me, him, and Craig, have all basically retired. I think they still do games here and there, but Craig and I both lost a ton of weight. We're in shape. We're ripped. Kerry looks worse than ever. Big, giant, flabby belly. Just not, I don't know, poor Mel.
Poor Mel.
Oh, his girlfriend. Fucking bald spot and big, giant, flabby love handles. Just gross.
Carrie's got to get on the online program.
He needs to get on my online program. I will help him.
Right.
And, you know, I can lead a horse to water, but you can't make a fat guy drink, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, we got to go do a workout now.
We do.
Insanity. I'm taking the 10 o'clock class today with whoever's out there. I don't know who the hell would be out there lifting right now. Probably Eric. Eric skips out on his work and comes in here and lifts.
Yeah. Allison Beach might come.
Me and Allison, my job will be to destroy her. All right, let's wrap this up, and I don't know when this will come out, but soon. All right, this has been The Refined Savage with Zac Papay. See ya.